What's the deal, YouTube? It's your girl, Miss Honey. Welcome back to the channel, you guys. This is a quick video short by special request. I had someone hit me up in the DM and ask me about the whole Kanye West situation and what I thought about it. I was going to try to avoid the whole conversation just because, one, everybody's talking about it, and, you know, a lot of things that people are saying, you know, are based upon some of their own feelings and their own experiences. And a lot of times what we do, I think, is some people say, oh, he's crazy. You know, it's a very broad stroke to call someone crazy, because there's a lot of different kinds of crazy out there. And I do think that, even though he said out of his own mouth, Kanye has, that he is bipolar, I do think that people, you know, saddle up on that horse and they ride it into the sunset without other considerations. So, you know, people throw those terms around. He rejects that he may be bipolar himself at times. Sometimes maybe he embraces it, but for sure, public perception is that he has some sort of mental disorder, and he needs to add to or take away from his medication regimen, start one. You know, a lot of different opinions out there. For me personally, I think a lot of times my personal opinions is rooted in my spiritual background, growing up as a pew baby. A lot of it is my personal experience, not just in church, but growing up in the country, growing up around some really, really wise souls. I learned a lot. Life experience, I've learned a lot. I've seen a lot. You know, I always tell people there's very little in this world that I haven't seen, done, or taught somebody to do. I see things a little bit differently sometimes. But you guys always tend to rock with me when on these types of things. So I'm going to forge ahead and just trust that my honeybees know where I'm coming from. And I'm willing to bet more likely than not, once I get through, you'll see my perspective and you may even tend to agree with me. Okay, so coming up in the country, my grandma used to always say, when, you know, we would get into stuff and or do something, you know, or she would be mad at somebody or mad at something. Growing up, everybody I knew was saved, so it wasn't any cursing. I never heard cursing. I don't think I ever heard my grandma curse. My mom doesn't curse. My father tried cursing a couple of times in front of me. It was hilarious. Like, you obviously have no experience. I said all that because they had a way of cursing you, but it wasn't typical curse words. So they weren't dropping F-bombs and GD. Like, I didn't grow up with that. But if my grandmama said, confound your soul, okay, if she said confound your soul, she was mad. Okay, she was mad. I know now, breaking down the definition, that was a little bit of a curse. You know what I mean? She was saying, you know, for you to have a moment, have a spell, sit down somewhere, you know what I'm saying, get off kilter. You know, it's a type of a curse when you say it in that manner. You, I never really thought about what it meant, but then listen to the whole Kanye West debacle on CNN and a whole host of other outlets. And hearing some of the conversation, seeing the little shorts of what went on, seeing people try to explain it. Roland Martin broke it down piece by piece. You know, he had him play the video, then he stopped it, and he went just counterpoint by counterpoint by counterpoint to sort of discredit the things that Kanye was saying, which, I mean, I don't think anybody thought that they were valid things that he was saying in its entirety. You know, if you take it contextually, none of it made any sense. None of it was true. But even if you broke it down into what could be considered small truths, like, yeah, there is violence in Chicago, we know that for sure. There were no really full, complete thoughts. You could take a little bit of truth, and then there was some other things in there that covered the truth up, that didn't expound on the truth, that didn't lead to a path that would, you know, bring you full circle in thought about the truth, so that you can come to some realizations about the truth and what was happening. It was very difficult to follow along. Like, it was confounding. Okay, so let's just talk about the word confound, and then hopefully you guys will meet me at a place where you understand what I'm saying about Kanye West. It is my personal belief that Kanye West is consistently and perpetually confounded. There are some schools of thought that feel as though when a person is in a perpetual state of confoundment, that they're possessed. I'm not saying Kanye West is possessed. I'm just telling you there are some schools of thought that lean in that direction. But I said perpetual state of confoundment, C-O-N-F-O-U-N-D, because we all get confounded. To be confounded is to be confused, so befuddled. You know, you see something happen. For instance, you see small children being kept in cages, you know, because of this whole immigration debacle, and it's confounding. Like, you're so confused as to what's happening right now, like what's going on in this world, right? So we all have our moments of confoundment. Sometimes you can, you know, have a math problem if you're a student, and that problem will confound you. You just don't get it. You don't understand how they came up with the answer. You don't see it. You can have something said to you that you are completely unaware of, you know, what they mean contextually, how they coming at you. You know, you're confounded. You're confused. You're caught off guard. But so we all go through moments where we're confounded. You know what I mean? Things shock us, things take us off guard, things knock us off balance. We need more clarity. We need context. Once we get those things, we're able to understand, and the confoundment is relieved. Some things confound us all our lives. Like, for me, men molesting small children, I will always be confounded by that. I don't understand it. I don't have a perspective about it that would allow me to understand. But at the same time, I am not perpetually confounded by that, in the sense that it muddies everything else in my life. All right. So I'm putting that in perspective because I think we are all confounded about certain things at certain times. But to be in a constant state of confoundment is a whole nother animal. And I started really thinking about this because when people would go into conversations about the 13th Amendment and how stupid it was, it didn't make any sense. It's like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that there's so many cameras there. There was so many, like, where else? I mean, in any other, I think, administration, it would have been considered foolish to bring Kanye there because he's unstable and he has admitted to being on heavy medication or not taking heavy medication. He's unpredictable. He's proven himself to be unpredictable. And so why would they open up the White House and all of these cameras to expose themselves to the embarrassment, unless it wasn't necessarily an embarrassment for them in their minds? Maybe it was more of an embarrassment to him and consequently the black community, because the black community seems extremely embarrassed. So I started thinking about it and I was just like, people are making it about the subject matter that he was talking about, but there was no concise, clear subject matter. And we ourselves truly were left kind of confounded as to what was going on. But Kanye West is in a perpetual state of confoundedness. Okay, and we're going to talk about what that means really quick. The confounded is a verb, C-O-N-F-O-U-N-D. It's a verb, and it means mixed up or lumped together indiscriminately, confused. Number 2, to make, to feel confused or bewildered. Number 3, to damn. This goes back to what I said my grandma used to say, confound your soul. It's kind of a type of curse, right? Like you're condemning. Archaically, the word confound means to defeat or destroy, to abash. Confounded, confounding, and confounds with an S means to be confused, perplexed, fail to distinguish, mix up. It can be a mild curse, okay, to frustrate or to thwart, all right? Some synonyms for confound. We all know what synonyms are, right? They're words that mean the same thing, but they have a different spelling, all right? Synonyms is to mix, to confuse, to cause to be unclear, in mind, befuddled, bewildered, discombobulated. This is just a few, but it goes on. It goes on, okay? And so this is how I feel Kanye, this is what I feel Kanye is going through. I think Kanye is consistently and perpetually confounded. He is confused. He has no complete thoughts. He has fragments of truth and fragments of fancy, fragments of folly, fragments of fantasy. He has ideas of grandeur. He has this feeling that he is a superhero. He's larger than life. He's beyond you know, human constraint. But what is more telling than anything is that when he goes to speak, although there may be some part of him that wants to speak his truth, it's so confused and confounded in his own mind. It comes out as gibberish. Now, maybe on the other side of it, he makes perfect sense. But to us, it is apparent that he is so mixed up and he is so confused and unclear in his own mind. He can't go from point A to point B and make a clear statement. He cannot do it because he's confounded. He's so confused. It's like, remember when your dad would pick you up or your mom and spin you around and around and around, and then that was the funny thing, was to let you go and see if you can walk. Now, you can try to will yourself to walk straight if you want to, but because your equilibrium is off altogether because of the spinning, you can't walk straight if you wanted to. He can't talk straight if he wanted to. He has been confounded. He is in a perpetual state of confusion, perpetually perplexed. Okay, he is perpetually unclear. All right, he knows the words, he knows, how to speak, but he can't put it together cohesively because he's confused, he's off balance. Okay, he's confounded. And like I said, there are some schools of thought that that correlate or that akin being confounded to being possessed. Okay, when you would even speak from your own mind, there is something there that is the captain, that is in control. Okay, and a lot of times the old people used to say the devil will make an open show of you. Again, he should be embarrassed. His family should be embarrassed. Not really sure why they're not, trying to keep him from doing some things. It seems like he loves and respects his wife a lot. At the same time, she seems like she is in complete support of his behavior. So I have not been very secretive about how I feel about the Kardashians. I stand by the fact that I think they're a coven. And for all intents purposes, they seem to be a very powerful coven, especially if you're easily influenced. Anyway, I said all this because it doesn't seem as though anyone is in any really great hurry to remedy the situation, or to get some help if he truly is bipolar or schizophrenic or manic depressive. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot being done to get him help, to support him. He is consistently being put on display. One thing I noticed from Kanye West is that he has a inflated sense of self. He has a very large ego, and sometimes these are the things that lead you into a place of being confounded. You, as they say, you let your mouth write a check. Instead of letting your mouth write a check your behind can't cash, you may have let your mouth write a check that your mind can't cash. God guard my heart and my mind. Okay, the mind is a very fragile place. You got to be careful of your ear gates, your eye gates, your mouth gates, what you're speaking, what is being spoken. Okay, what you're ingesting, what you're regurgitating, what you're hearing, what you're seeing, what you open up your mind to. These gates lead to your mind processes. It seems to me that Kanye West is in a perpetual state of confusion. He is perpetually confounded. Although some of the things that he says are confounding, meaning they're leaving us bewildered, he is in a consistent state of being confused. A consistent state of being confused. And I think it would be remiss of us to say it's about big pharma, medication. You need to take some medication. Definitely think people need medication. I myself have taken medication before. At the same time, I recognize that there are things at work in a lot of areas of celebrity, lifestyle and that whole world of Hollywood that we don't quite understand. There are some things that people have done to get to where they are that have put them in a place where they are now beholden to certain spirits of this world. And you are seeing it repeatedly over and over again. What we are labeling it as manic states. We're labeling it as mental health, a lot of it. We're labeling it as ego or pride, when a lot of people are being used to confuse the masses, used to influence the masses, used to cause discourse with the masses, within the masses, because if we don't ever come together, we won't accomplish anything. But we still have these constant little outbursts that causes confusion, that keeps us in this perpetual state where we want to gossip and we want to, chew on it, we want to peep in on it, we want to kid about it and laugh about it and all of that. And so we desensitize ourselves to it. But there's some people that are walking amongst us that are not in control of their own life. They're not in control of their mouth. They're not in control of their tongue. They're not in control of their mind. They're not in control of their behaviors. It seems like they are. It seems like they are, until the machine starts, and then you realize that the wizard is not real. That there's some skullduggery afoot. Now that's a word for your ass. Skullduggery. All right. I did think it very, very telling that Kanye West would be as inconsistent as any human can possibly be about everything. He did the conversation on Saturday Night Live about abolishing the 13th Amendment, and then came back with a retort or rebut to it that was just as confusing as the original statement. The only thing that he has been consistently clear about is his love and admiration for Donald Trump. That is something that remains consistently the same. That is something he has never taken back. He has never re-explained it. He's never felt a need to re-explain it. Right now, we are being exposed to so many behind the scenes details of what's really, really up with people. And it's just to the point where you can't 110% co-sign on anything, because you don't know who people serve. You don't know what type of behaviors people are doing in their personal life. You see a stage image and you really just want to hold on to that. If you're like me, you don't like to peek behind the veil. But when you do get to see behind the veil, you realize that people are doing all kinds of things to hold on to fame and money and accolades, attention, all of that. So much so that they are pledging their very lives, their very hearts, their very souls, their very minds to powers that absolutely positively are set to destroy and defeat them. The ultimate end to being perpetually confounded, consistently confounded, consistently off balance, it is to be defeated and to be destroyed. That is the perpetual end of this thing with Kanye. And that is sad. But when you don't have a standard that you don't go below, when you sell your soul, you got to pay at some point. You got to pay at some point. So what we're watching is, is an individual that I really truly believe sold his soul to the devil. Maybe you thought you could get around it. Maybe you thought you were smarter than. He spends a lot of time feeling like he's smarter than. He's, like he's invincible, like he's able to see in the third realm of the third eye, on the third level of the third day of the 333. You know what I'm saying? Like he's acute with it. And I know people say that is these are some of the symptoms of bipolar, but maybe, possibly, it's something a little deeper than that. It's something that is on a different plane than that. I'm just putting it out there. Y'all tell me what you think. Y'all know what the word confounded means. You guys have seen the interviews. You've seen how incohesive this individual is. He is this way on and off medication. What could be truly going on? And will you allow yourselves to think just on just a slightly different level about what's happening? Not just with Kanye, but all across America. Really pay attention. That's all I got for you guys. Tell me what you think. Put it out below. Let me know. It's an open discussion. We can talk about it. Until next time. I'll holla.